Okay, so I started working on a collar now, and the wood I chose to do on the collar is poplar. And this is some of the stock that I had it cut down already, and I'll show you what I've already been working on the collar. But I got 2 8-foot pieces that were about 7 to 8 inches wide, and then I had them cut down with a table saw. So they're to this size now. So I have one main front piece, which you can tell the ends here, and then I have the side piece, and then I have the other back end piece there. So I still have where you can see the seal, but that poplar is completely straight now. So I'll have a nice seal. That one little lip that's showing there is just from part of where they had this bump on this edge here. So that'll come back out. But everything is sitting real nice. Same thing with that. That'll come back out. And so to put on the front part of this is I'm going to do it in oak, which is right here. I got a 10-foot piece of oak that's been run through the table saw on both sides, so it's nice and straight. And then that will fit on the front lip here. And the way that it is right now, it'll go from the top here to the bottom here. But I'm going to put some quarter oak trim on it so it's finished, and it'll end up about here, and it'll end up about here. So it'll have a really nice looking front to it, and then I'll still be able to get into this handle a little bit. And but the lid here is just sitting on it. It's not bolted or anything. You can see now that the white, and you can see the inside part of that. And so my next step I'm going to work on right now is I'm going to take the lid off. I'm going to put a sheet on top of the lid because it's completely straight right now. And then I'll screw the pieces together. And then once the collar's set, I'll put it back on for a test fit, and then I'm going to prime it and paint it black. And then that way when you open up the collar part or the lid part, the collar will look black inside as well. So that's the next piece. So I'm going to go ahead and get the lid off, and I'll get the pieces laid out, and you'll be able to see it better then, and then I'll show you how I'm going to screw it together. Okay, starting to assemble the collar now, and you can see here that it's a nice tight fit, and I know that it's nice and flat since I had those cut through the table saw, and then I countersunk where the screw heads are going here, so that when I put that piece of oak on here, it'll be nice and flat. And there's one side done. Here's a single piece that's going to be going on the next side here. So I'll work on that, and then the back piece. So I'll get all this assembled, show you what it looks like all together, and then I'm going to replace it back on the collar with the lid. Okay, collar's all done and sitting on the top of the chest freezer now. So right there's the bottom or the underside of the lid, and I'll throw that on here. But I just want to show you guys, there's those counter sunk in there. I got a couple areas I need to go back and touch up paint, and those will be set. And so let me put the top on real fast. Lid's back on. Looks good. I like the way that it's fit. It's nice and sealed around it. The seal is a nice and tight against the board. So that's good. And next step I'm going to do is get this primer painted, and then I'll work on getting the oak pieces cut for the front. And once that's set, then we can start cutting holes for the faucet. Okay, so I got 3/4 of it painted with primer. I'm just getting ready to do the top, just so it seals it off. And then there you can tell the difference between the gray and the other. I went with the gray primer, and it's called Gripper from Glidden, and it like sticks to anything. So I'm gonna make sure it's primered and sealed, and then I'm gonna paint it gloss black. And then once it's black, then we'll go ahead and glue it to the top of the Keezer right there. Okay, so there's the collar, painted black, installed. Kind of, it's just sitting on there. I'll show you in the back. I got a couple of screws in it. But it looks pretty good, just even black. But I'm gonna put the oak trim on it still. This is what we did on the back though, is I reinstalled the top and then the bottom here. This is where the existing hole was and the other one, and they didn't line up, so I had to re-drill holes. And then I just installed it there, and then up here I'm going to screw this to the collar, so it'll still be held in 2 places there and on that. But I can open this up now. And you can see how it looks from the inside, nice and clean. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push, I have the collar just sitting on here, but I've shoved it all the way to the back so that I can make sure that this is flush. And then I'm going to temporarily tack it on there with some smaller screws just so it stays in place. And then I'm going to start doing the collar with the oak. But I want to make sure that it's in place where I want it to be, but I don't want to glue it just yet. Another problem, not a problem, but another area that I found is, let me show you when I close this. On this side here, it's nice and flush. And then you come on this side, and there's a little bit of a gap. And what that gap is from is right there from that light switch. So what I will do is mark where it is on the corner here, and then I'm just going to sand this down a little bit, kind of notch it out so that that piece right there will sit in this little channel, and then everything should sit flush. And that's where we are. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on notching this out, and then all I got to do is just paint it and then do the oak and get her kind of lined up, and that's what we'll do. Okay, I'm working on the oak, and I'll show you a piece here that you can see where the quarter round is here. There's a quarter round there. There they are on the ends glued, and then they've been nailed together too. So it does kind of a nice edge to it. This is the last piece that I'm doing, is the front. Let me move this here. So you can tell where one side doesn't have it and the other side does. And it gives it that roundness to it. And it also gives it another inch this way. So here's the last piece. This is a 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch. 1/2 inch on the side here, 3/4 on the bottom. So this one, let me turn it around, is going to sit right there. And that'll finish that out. So now I just need to glue it. And then I'm just using, see if it'll zoom in, 3/4 inch brad nails with my air nailer there. Like every 6 inches or so. Let me go on this one so you can see where they're going through the top. And so I'll nail this together, and then I'm going to cut it and get it all to size, and then when it's kind of snug fit, then I will go back and I'll stain it. So that's the next step. I moved the freezer down into my bar area where I'm going to do this because it's too cold in the garage for the glue to set. So I have the collar sitting here. You guys saw what it looked like before. Now I have the hinges come around the back. I got the hinges secured right there too on each hinge. So there's one, there's two, and then the other half will support right here when I put the collar back on. So I'm gonna put glue around the lip of this, nice thick bead around it, and then I'm gonna put the collar back on, and then I will run screws back through these brackets so that I make sure that it's completely sucked up against where that is, and it lines up everything that I need, because I've already test fitted it there. And the glue that I'm going to be using is a brand that makes sure that it will adhere to plastic and it will also adhere to wood. So I'm using a style of glue that's to set like shower basins. So that's where this is, and then the lid is back there leaning against the wall. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue the collar back on and then screw it, and I'll be able to show you. Here's the wood on top of the bar right now, all sanded and ready to go. I'm gonna go out and stain it in the garage now. So next time you see it, it'll be colored. Okay, so here's the board stained. There's two of them. There's the sides, and then the front is clamped on there right now. And I got it adjusted to where I need it, and now I'm going to put the sides on using glue. So I'll glue it together, or I'll put some glue on it, and then I'm going to nail it with my air nailer around there. So then I'll have the front collar done, and I'll have a few areas I'll have to go back and touch up and do the nail holes and fill those, and then next step after that, when I'll come back, you'll see the collar on, and then I need to start laying out where I want the faucets to go, and then we'll start drilling. Okay, collar is on, and there's the side view of it, and I got the tape, and I'll show you here. I have the stuff measured out, but here's that white seal, and it goes down below, so you can't see it, and it is a nice look to the front of it, and now you can see my lines. And I'm going to put 6 taps, and you can see where I've measured them out, and I did the circle letter, see where it is, and the way that the shank will fit in here, and it will go drill into this about the middle of there, and it should be set there. So I'm going to go ahead and start drilling. Next time I come back, hopefully there'll be 6 holes there and everything. Right, holes were success. So you can see there's 6 of them, and I have 2 shanks and 1 faucet on now, just to do a test. And then just to show you the inside, I got 5 kegs sitting there. I'm going to put a 6th, but I got the tank just sitting there, the lines are kind of laying, but look at all the extra room I got on this side. I can store stuff in there too. And here's a shot of it's a 4-inch shank through there with the end and the fitting on it, and I still got thread, so that worked out perfect. And that's where we are now. And I'm going to go back. These corners are really sharp, so I'm going to sand these a little bit, and then go back and fill all the holes. I still have all my nail holes, so I'll fill those in, and then I'll sand I'll fill them with the stainable wood filler, and that's where we'll be then. And then it'll be time to put on some clear varnish and stuff, and then we'll be ready to start hooking all the CO2 lines and everything else up. So looking good. Alright, another step I've done is I sealed the entire inside. You can see where it's white right now. This is a silicone sealant that when it dries it'll be clear. So it looks white right now, but it'll dry completely clear, which won't stand out. And then I've also filled in all the nail holes here with some putty, and then I'll stain those here in a little bit. And I got the whole front end completely nailed on now, and that's where that's sitting. So once all this dries and I get everything stained, then I'll put some varnish on it, and then it'll be time to hook up the shanks. Okay, we're ready to start installing hardware. So I laid out the pieces here so I can show you the difference between them. So this is what it comes, this is what one of the shanks look like when they come out of the box. And then I disassembled this one, and the reason why I disassembled it is I want to change the collar out on this one. So here's one that has the knurls that you guys can see, and then these are the smooth ones. So I like the knurled look better, so I'm going to change these out. So you just disassemble this by taking that nut off, taking the collar off, and then these you can just switch out. So easy enough like that. The plastic part, this fits through the board, and then the nut goes on the back here. And then once the nut's on the back, then this is how you hook up your line. Is you have this piece here, the nut will go over that, and then you have this little rubber grommet here, and that's what seals. It's not actually a grommet, it's a washer. And then that will go to that and screw to there, and then your line attaches to there. And then this is the Perlik's tap, and this is how it comes. Separate just this way, and then I just got one of the cheap plastic handles. I'll be changing the handles out eventually, but so to show you the whole way that it looks, we'll go over here. Here's what it looks like when it's set up on the collar of the Keezer. There's one here without the faucet on it, and one with. So here's a shot in between. So this here's the shank coming out, and then this is the nut screwed onto it, and then the liquid line will hook up right here. So that's what the whole setup looks like once it's done. So to hook up the faucet, let me grab one. So the faucet just connects like that, and you see there's a hole on the collar here, and that's what you screw this onto there, and you use that little wrench that was on the counter there, just like this, attaches into there, and then you just use the wrench to screw that on. So collar's looking good. I got one on and two others. Now I'm going to work on getting the other 3 shanks in there and hooking the rest of it up, and then all the faucets will be set up, and then we'll move on to hooking up the gas lines to actually the gas lines are all there. I just need to figure out where I want to mount it, but then I'm going to start hooking up the liquid lines from the kegs into the faucets. Okay, now we got all 6 faucet shanks, handles, everything hooked up. You can see I have all the holes stained, sanded down, and I have lacquer on it. I've fixed the corners, they're not sharp anymore. So the collar itself is all done now, and I'm going to show you the inside here. And I've got 1 line there and 2 lines there hooked up, and I want to show you the difference between them. So this line, I just took one of my old picnic taps, cut the plastic end off, and I still have it's about a 3.5 foot line. I ran it to one of the kegs, and I wanted to see what it would look like flowing out with a 3.5 foot line, and the pressure on it was so high that all I got was foam. So I went to these 2 lines, and they are 10-foot lines, 3/16 in diameter. And this keg back, you can see how I rested it. I coiled it up, and I rested against the wall because the walls were the coolest or the coldest spot is in the Keezer. So both of those are 10 feet lines. And here's a beer that I poured off of it. And you can see the head retention is good on it. So I'm gonna start fixing some of the other lines for to do the last 4. So we'll go over here. I have 4 different lines here. As I said, they're 3/16 and they're cut at 10 feet. And then I use ball lock kegs, so this is the liquid out for the ball lock with the connection there. And I got 2 different kinds of clamps, the Oetiker clamp here and just a regular ring clamp or whatever you call these. I'm going to put these on the liquids, and then I'm going to put these on the shanks of the Keezer, so if I need to remove them, it's a little bit easier with these. But as you can tell, I have the hose sitting in the glass with hot water so that it makes it very easy to slide on. So I'm going to use this clamp, and I'm going to put it on this hose here, slide it on, and then crimp it on. So I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. Okay, all the lines are done now, and you can tell I just have I have 4 of them sitting down here and 2 of them hooked up. The other kegs don't have anything in them. I was just doing it for space. And I have the 20-pound tank in here now, which I can set up here on the hub if I want with a 5-pound, but I'm going to leave the 20-pound down there and do 5 kegs right now. But everything is set, everything's hooked up. So there's a shot from the side. Here's a front shot. And then let me go ahead and close the lid. Give you an exterior shot of it like this. Really happy with the way that it turned out. As you can see, that seal is hidden and just the taps hang out. And it also does not look like a typical freezer. So unless somebody knew it was a freezer, they would just think it was something custom made. I decided to put the Johnson control on the back side here, and I right here have double velcroed it. So it's heavy duty industrial velcro. You can see it right there. So it's stuck to the freezer itself, and then the other part is stuck to the Johnson controller. How I've set my Johnson controller up is it goes anywhere between 38 and 40 degrees right now, which is working pretty well. It only turns on maybe 3 times an hour is it. So it's very efficient right now. And I'll open the lid back up, show you where the probe comes through. So we'll open it up here. Back here's where I've drilled, and the wire comes through the collar, and it's hanging down there towards the bottom. I'm going to lift it up just a little bit. There's the bottom of it right now. I'm going to lift it up just a little bit higher than what it's sitting right now, so I get a more accurate temperature. And I may add one of the small computer fans, but I'm not going to do it right now. Seems to be working well as it is. But here is a last shot of the inside. You can see where that silicone is dried clear. You can see the collar here. And this is nice and completely flat. It does a great seal to it. And there's the faucets. And here's the tank. So let's go ahead and do a final close on it. And I am going to grab a glass, and I'm going to do this one-handed so you can see how it actually works and turns out. And we'll just go to there. But does a nice job on beers, nice job pouring. And thanks for watching the video. I hope it helped out. If you have any questions, comments, go ahead, leave them, and I'll try to get back with you as quick as I can. But that's it for the Keezer build, and cheers.